Good morning, everybody. The fact of the matter is that today is different than any other time in history. And the challenge is that we don't realize it most of the time. We as humans evolved on the savannas of Africa hundreds of thousands and millions of years ago in a time where the world was very different. And the literal hardware and wiring of our brain is a result of that. We are local and linear thinkers in a world that is no longer local and linear, right? Our bodies evolved to meet the needs of our environment. And back then, 100,000 years ago, a million years ago, anything that affected you was within a day's walk. And the life of your great-grandparents, you, your parents, their kids, nothing changed century to century, millennium to millennium. And we have a set of cognitive biases that resulted from that. And the challenge is that the world is growing at a global and exponential rate. And each of us running companies, I don't care if you're a 100-person company or 100,000-person company, we have a set of mechanisms and biases that evolved for a time that was really decades or centuries ago. And today, an entrepreneur in their hands has access to extraordinary technology, right? We have this democratization of knowledge where the poorest child on a smartphone has access to the same information and knowledge that President Clinton had or Larry Page has. And at the same time, that individual also has the ability to spin up 1,000 processor cores on Amazon web servers. And there's this incredible democratization. And it isn't that entrepreneurs today are smarter than a CEO of a larger corporation. The fact is that they're taking more shots on goal, that they're taking bigger and bigger experiments that you might not ever take. And that's the difficult thing. You know, I think about this, that the day before something is truly a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. And so I'm asking CEOs all the time, where inside your organization are you trying crazy ideas? Because a lot of people don't, right? If you're the CEO of a company, you have a board that's worried about quarterly earnings reports, your ability to take a crazy idea and actually implement it is really limited. And so either you've got to train the shareholders like Jeff Bezos has done with Amazon or Elon's done with Tesla and saying, I don't care what the reports are going to be, I'm going to run the company the way I want. Or you have to have a board that has the guts and the, if you would, the top cover to allow you to try those crazy ideas. Or you need to take an ecosystem that's going to allow you to actually invest in the hundreds or thousands of entrepreneurs, because the companies that are crushing it today are data-driven companies. They're companies that are trying hundreds of experiments, either investments that they're making, startups that they're buying, startups that they're creating in-house. And what you see coming out at the top of Google, for example, is just one of them, is, yeah, a few great ideas. You don't see the hundreds that were crushed along the way. So today is different. And today, your ability as a CEO to take on bold new ideas is greater than ever before. The problem is a lot of us don't. And a lot of us actually think what we're doing is bold today in the lab, but ultimately it's not. A friend of mine, Tom Gruber, who's a CTO of Siri, I first met him at Singularity University when we were starting SU Up. And I remember something he told me that stuck with me, you know, these last 7, 8 years. He said, when we designed Siri, the technology to enable it didn't exist. We had to project where cognitive processing was going to be. We had to project where computational power, where bandwidth was going to be in 3 years, and build a product to intercept where that tech would be in 3 years' time versus what existed today. Because if you're building something for today, by the time you get it to market, it's out of date. A lot of folks don't think that way, that you have to literally skate to the puck. And I'm the worst at sports analogies, but I get that one. The other thing that's going on that's extraordinary, again, is this democratization of the ability to change the world. You know, 1,000 years ago, the only people who could really take on national, regional, or global issues at best were the kings and the queens. And even the best that they could do was change the monetary policy or deploy their troops. 100 years ago, it was the robber barons, the industrialists, who could make a difference in the world. And today, it's all of us. Anyone who truly wants to has access to, this year, $15 billion in crowd financing, has access to extraordinary technologies. And it's really the number of experiments, the number of shots on goal that are giving us these extraordinary unicorns, as they're called. So I think about this, and I think about the fact that it's got to change the way we do business. Because these entrepreneurs aren't smarter, they're just trying more and more experiments. And they're taking more and more risk. And you've heard the stats. I know they've been said a number of times. In the next decade, we're going to lose 40% of today's Fortune 500 companies. The lifespan of a company has gone from 75 years in the S&P 500 from, back in 1920 to 17, 18 years now. And part of the difficulty is that a lot of CEOs running companies forget what business they're truly in. I opened my last book, Bold, with the story of Kodak, which I hope you know. It's a time-telling, Steven Sasson invents the digital camera in 1976, and he walks it into the boardroom of Kodak and says, here it is, this future of Kodak. It takes 0.01 megapixel images in black and white on a tape drive. And of course, the board goes, what are you kidding me? That's a joke for kids. We're Kodak. We make beautiful, high-resolution images. Besides, we're in the paper and chemicals business. And of course, in 2012, Kodak goes bankrupt, put out of business by the very technology they had invented. They had the first mover advantage, they had intellectual property on, but they forgot what business they were truly in. And in the same year that Kodak goes from, at its peak, a $28 billion market cap, to declaring bankruptcy, another company, also in the digital imagery business called Instagram, gets acquired for $1 billion by Facebook, but they've got 13 employees at the time. So we're going to see this dance between linear thinking companies and exponential startups more and more. The question is, how do you indoctrinate this kind of thinking in your organization? Because we, as I said before, are local and linear thinkers, and we don't know how to think in an exponential fashion. You might try and believe you can, but we fundamentally project everything as a linear point of view. And as you know, you take 30 linear steps, you're in the back of the room 30 meters away. You take 30 exponential steps, you've gone 26 times around the planet. And that difference between the back of the room and orbiting planet Earth 26 times is a lot. And it's what's causing this age of disruption. I think about disruption as it occurred on planet Earth. 66 million years ago, an asteroid hit the Earth, and the large lumbering dinosaurs died. It was the furry mammals that were agile enough to move around and evolve. The dinosaur hitting the Earth today is exponential technologies. And the large dinosaurs, up to you to decide. Are you a furry mammal or are you a lumbering dinosaur? Any of us can sort of project where one field is going. You can be the world's expert in 3D printing, or you can know a lot about AI or about synthetic genomics. The challenge is it's not any one of these that's going to eat your lunch. It's all of these converging and reorganizing in novel and different ways. It's how does AI and VR and sensors combine to change your industry. And I don't know that our limited cognitive capabilities of any single human brain can really fathom that. And the only constant is change, and the rate of change is increasing. So you've got to figure out, ultimately, how do you set up a mechanism for constantly pulsing and gathering all the crazy ideas that entrepreneurs are creating and actually invest in them, bring them in-house, and sort of ride on top of this tsunami of change versus being crushed by it. Because every company's core business will go to zero eventually. And you hear about this adage, and I've been on the bandwagon saying this. You either disrupt yourself or someone else will. But here's the little dirty secret. Very few companies have ever disrupted themselves. All right? Name like one. I could probably name Verizon, that used to be 80% landline and 20% mobile, and over the course of 10 years, flipped that to 80% mobile and 20%. But they're very few. And the truth is not disrupt yourself, it's who are the neighbors you're going to disrupt. So I'll leave you with that. Today, your mission is, where do you go bold and big, Where do you take moonshots? And which of the companies that you're sitting next to are you looking to disrupt to keep your company vibrant and alive? Thank you.